beautiful soul. Welcome to the Quantum Business Queen podcast. This podcast is a vortex for activating wealth, riches, and boss bitches. It is here that I teach multi-dimensional business. Our content will fall under 3 different categories: 5D quantum creation, 4D frequency alchemy, and the most potent 3D strategy. Every aspect of business that contributes to the creation of success is covered here. Plus, I will be personally interviewing the most amazing boss bitches that are at the forefront of the game, paving the way for money, magic, and magnetism in business. Let's get ready to activate all of that within you. Hello, Angel. Welcome to this week's episode of the Quantum Business Queen podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce to you an interview I did with J.Nichole Smith. So Nicole is a brand architect. I met her in Necker Island, and she has a special expertise in design and color psychology. Her clients call her the mind-reading magician. With over 20 years in curating, capturing, studying, and selling joy, Nick has become an expert of the experts in the art of favorable first impressions. Along the way, she has been honored with a bucket full of awards, including 40 Under 40, and a European Design Award, as she has helped high-impact small businesses, celebrities, startups, billion-dollar market leaders, and everything and everyone in between. So she absolutely blew my mind when she was talking about color psychology in Necker Island and the impact it has on businesses. She has been featured in publications like US Today, Real Simple Magazine, LA Times, and she is currently living a joy-first life, surrounded by sheep in the north of England with the man of her dreams and their 3 energetic girls. Love it. So without further ado, here is mine and Nicole's chat, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Nick, I'm really interested to know how you got into this whole color psychology thing. The whole thing blew my mind. You spoke about it at Necker Island. I didn't realize the impact it actually has on your brand and how it can magnetize people or how it can repel people, which I need to do a whole revamp, and we could talk about that later. But can you tell me how you got into all of this and how the journey started for you?
So basically, one of the things I've found to be true and that I believe with the work that I do is that whatever it is that you're sort of ultimately most drawn to, at least in a particular stage of life, has left breadcrumbs, like, these little hints along the way that like, ooh, maybe I could have noticed that. And so for me, color is one of those things that had a lot of breadcrumbs that I didn't notice until I did. You look back and you're like, whoa. So the biggest one is that my grandfather actually was a color engineer, and he worked with a company called Hunter Labs in DC, which is one of the biggest global companies for regulating color for commerce. So for things like Doritos and roof tiles and food and all kinds of things. And so he actually helped create the color language and the machinery that they use at this company to this day. So I looked back on that one, like not that long ago, actually, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. It's literally in my blood. But the other sort of little breadcrumbs were like, I was a weirdo who had to have my socks had to exactly match my top, and my curtains in my room had to exactly match my sheets. And I always loved helping my dad pick out his tie to match his suit. So the color was there, and I was a photographer and a graphic designer. So obviously color plays a part there. And then the only real job I've had other than being an entrepreneur is I was a picture framer in college. So matching, mats to the artwork and that kind of thing. So color has played a really strong theme throughout my own perception. And I work in archetype. So I know for me that is about being a creator archetype and loving to have aesthetic control. And color gives us a really great tool for that. But, through my work as a photographer, graphic designer, and consultant, it's been a really strong theme since the beginning. It's only been the last 5 or so years that I've really honed in on being a color consultant, really diving deeper into color psychology and building my color brand method, which is a branding method that takes applied color psychology and archetypes and some other psychological principles into account to create a formula that helps you build a brand with more predictable impact instead of just winging it.
I love that so much. So can you tell people what is color psychology?
So one of the things that we don't really realize because nobody ever teaches us is that color is the number 2 most important perception in our life as a human being. So the first one is movement. The thing that we will notice first or be most driven by in our nervous system and our behavior is going to be we see something moving out of the corner of our eye. Second only to movement is color. And that's because, it totally makes sense, right? That in the early years of humanity, we had to make so many decisions about predators and food and time of day around color and light in particular, which is what creates color. So it really is embedded in us that we take so many cues from color in our environment. And that's just as true now as it's always been. So as we're creating products and websites and wearing clothes and designing our homes, color plays a much bigger role than we think. And it has a tremendous impact on our well-being because what happens is we see color, we perceive it, and then it has an impact on our body, our nervous system, our emotions, our mind. And different colors have different impacts. Different color combinations have different impacts. And that's obviously both a positive and negative, right? Everything has a positive psychology, potential benefit, and there's also negative impact as well. And so if we don't know that language and we're not making decisions based on using that language effectively, it's working. We just don't know if it's working for or against us in our homes and businesses and brands.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So how did you get into this whole field? Like obviously you had the breadcrumbs throughout your whole life, but how did it lead you into color psychology specifically?
So as I left doing graphic design as a service and became a consultant and was doing a lot more, getting paid for my thoughts and talking, which was pretty nice as I was having babies and growing a family. And then I had this really strong need to come back to doing branding and design. But I've always, since I've been a small business owner forever, I've always had this need for branding to not just be something pretty that we spend loads of money on because it looks nice. I really had a need to deeply, deeply understand how to build brands that were more effective alongside being beautiful. And that journey over almost 20 years led me to archetypes, which I was using, as well as color psychology as a potential tool to create more, to use science. One of my taglines is using science to create magic. And that's the experience a lot of people have where we're using psychological principles, but the experience for you and the people in your world is like magic because it's just once you find color harmony, once you're able to create the magic that color psychology can help you build, you feel it like throughout your whole body and no one has to explain it to you. You're just like, oh, I get it. Like, oh, This is nice. Yeah. So I think it's the work for me began with that like drive, that ambition to like build, to be confident that the brands that I was building were going to be reliably better than what someone had before, not just new or fresh or pretty. And then I got totally lost in this world of color psychology and realized actually some really profound personal impact that came from that. And that's where the work that I'm doing now, I found sort of my deeper why and my mission is all around helping to co-create or activate a joy-first world and helping us make decisions from a place of joy instead of a place of fear, which, as you know, because you work with entrepreneurs, is like the number one driver for everybody all the time. And it's really hard to step out of that fear-based decision making. And color just gives us this really easy access tool to begin to understand ourselves better so that we can make different decisions. And then that just sets off this chain reaction of all this amazing stuff, including finding our purpose and being able to operate in life or in business from that place instead of that fear-based one.
Wow. Oh my God. I love this so much. So color psychology goes like really, really deep, doesn't it? So it plays a role. So can you tell us like corporations are like all over this stuff, I'm assuming. Like if you think of like big chain, like McDonald's, for example, there's a reason why they pick certain colors. And what would that, I'm assuming, like you tell me what's going on with
McDonald's
all of that.
is actually a great example because so if we talk about, there's 2 levels of color psychology that I sort of explain or talk about, there's color psychology and then there's applied color psychology. And I'll tell you about both. Basic color psychology is like, this color makes us feel this, which is sort of true. That's what the long held belief was until about the 80s. And it was sort of, people felt like it was pretty unpredictable because it's kind of based on like what colors you like and what culture you're in, which is true, right? Culturally, color has a lot of different meanings. But psychology is really about how you feel in your body, which you may or may not be conscious of. So there's your conscious choices and preferences, and then there's what's happening in your body and mind, which you may or may not notice. So for example, with McDonald's, when they first started out, their colors were red and yellow. And red is physically stimulating, fast, and yellow is emotionally stimulating, happy. So essentially, the color combo of red and yellow was fast and happy, which is perfect for McDonald's, right? But that particular color combo you'll see in a lot of fast food, because when those colors are combined, those like primary colors are combined in that way, it also says affordable to us. So there's this fast, happy, affordable thing, which is why we see a lot of red and yellow in brands that want to look fast, happy, and affordable. Now, what's super interesting, I think, about McDonald's is over the last probably 6 to 10 years, you've seen them change. And I don't know if they're doing this in Australia, but they've started to go green. They're starting to use wood. They're starting to make this massive shift from fast and happy to, what do you think green and wood is trying to say?
Organic, even though it's not natural.
So now, you know, they've gone after the Starbucks market here by trying to bring in coffee, and they shifted to bringing a green into their branding. And they've in their restaurants, they're starting to use green and wood and rock and making it look much more earthy and natural. And obviously that's supposed to scream to us like, we're healthy. You can choose us because we're the healthy choice. And also it kind of takes them out of the cheap, although they are still affordable. And so our perception now that we know them as a brand is changing. So if people are discovering them for the first time, I think they're trying to get ahead of the fast food game of being perceived more as healthy, which is obviously driven by consumer demand and trends of people eating healthier.
So fascinating. Oh my gosh. So the McDonald's like you and I knew growing up like in the 80s and 90s is going to be vastly different from like the McDonald's
already.
Yeah. And it's all because of the color psychology.
Yeah, well, it's a big part of what's an overall marketing plan, right? But they obviously will have top experts helping to like help them make these decisions and to guide where it is that they want to go strategically.
Because the product ultimately isn't really changing. I mean, I don't know because I don't really eat at McDonald's except for they introducing coffee, you know, but isn't that interesting? But the whole perception's changing. So it feels like it's different.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So now people can understand the massive impact psychologically that color has on you. It'll make it fast and happy, which is what, you know, a version of the 80s and 90s versions of us wanted back in the day. But now that everything's evolving into, you know, we need to go after the planet, the color psychology will lead you to believe that that is the case.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
My gosh.
And the place where this starts to get really interesting. So I would say most companies and most corporates are using color psychology in that way. And if you Google color psychology, you'll find some really big fancy infographics telling you that like blue is trust and red can be, you know, fast or courage. It can also be like fear, terror, aggression, but they'll start to tell you the individual psychology of these individual hues. But what is not in there are a couple really important points, like what blue, what red, right? How many different reds are there? How many different greens are there? There's so many more greens than any of the other hues. So different hues, you know, whether they're tones or shades, whether they have white or black in them, whether they're blue-based or yellow-based, they make us feel very different things depending on which version they are. And the thing that has been researched and found to be very true is that it's so much less about an individual color, and it's so much more about a combination of colors, or what I call color harmony, where it's making sure that the colors that are used together are the right psychology, right? The blue or the red that you need to make people feel how they need to feel. But even more importantly than that really is that they're in harmony, which means they're all from the same color group. And those groups, just like with musical notes, have like a mathematical correlation to each other, that when they sing together have a harmony that we can feel in our bodies, that nobody ever teaches us this.
Yeah.
So some people instinctively stumble upon it because they're tuned in to what feels harmonious. Some people don't. Some people are kind of half and half. But I would say the percentage of companies using that is minute, absolutely tiny. Very, very few people know about that, which is part of the applied color psychology that I mentioned before.
Interesting. And what impact would that have on kind of driving human behavior? Would it make them feel more at ease with that organization, or what's the impact of having that color harmony?
Yeah. So for me, I deal in, the zone of what I call the most important 8 seconds in your business, which is that first impression. Yeah. And that's true whether you're a person or a business, right? Whatever happens in that first impression with humans face to face, we have about 90 seconds for those snap judgments to be made. Online, as you know, we've got like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, and it's going down. It used to be 8 seconds, 12 seconds. So what has to happen in those first seconds is we have to get people to want to stay and not leave, right? Yeah. We have to do something to make them want to stay. And what, again, people don't talk about is that is going to happen entirely visually for the most part. For the most part, we don't have time and don't read much in that space of time. So really, if you think about, for example, a website, that decision of whether to stay or go is going to be almost entirely made based on color and design and imagery. That is it. And then in the next 10 seconds, 12 seconds, we start to skim and read, and we start to make deeper decisions. So when you ask, what impact does it have? When you are able to create harmony between your color palette and your imagery, i.e. the colors in your images and the themes in your images, and your design, when that experience is harmonious and it sings like in a harmony in music, then we feel that in our body and we want more. Wow. It builds instant trust.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible.
It's really
okay.
And that's the magic bit.
Yeah, that is so magic, but I love it because I love energy. Like and I love music as well, but it makes so much sense. So tell us what you see brands, personal brands, because that's mostly who I work with out, and that's mostly who's going to be listening to this. Tell me what they're doing wrong that you see most of the time when it comes to color.
Okay, so
where do we start? Is it one of those situations?
Okay, the caveat here is we all start somewhere, right? Yeah, like all of us, right? Yeah. And most often what starting looks like is I'm going to see what's out there. I'm going to see what I like and see what I don't like. I'm going to build something closer to what I see that I like and farther from what I see that I don't like. And I'm going to use my instincts, personal preferences, and occasionally an expert to help me do that, right? So most of us are making decisions largely based on personal preference or the preference of whatever expert that we are working with, which 9 times out of 10 does actually not know very much about color psychology and has their own personal preferences, right? And we've chosen them probably because our preferences are aligned, but not always. Sometimes we've chosen them for a lot of other reasons, right? Like they've been recommended to us, or you like their style because it feels professional or fancy or fun or whatever it is you're choosing. Even if it's not your own style, you're like, I want to get me some of that. But it's not something you can authentically show up and be because it's not you, it's them, right? So the most common thing I see is, and I've done this, I have paid someone who's done this for me. I've done it myself. And in the early days, I would have done it for other brands, is you get some photos you love and you just eyedropper the colors out of the photos, right? Which is like, it's great in the fact that you can create some harmony because at least your colors match your images, but not great because it's so fucking random what ends up being your primary brand color, right? It's like, I like this color. I was wearing this color sweater that day. So here we go. It's turquoise.
Yes. Guilty.
And that's especially true when you hand it off to a designer because they also want to make, your images match your brand. And that's the biggest mistake I see is that It's not strategic. So when I talk about building brands, I talk about building strategic brands, which is, using psychology to have an impact that's more predictable and actually gets people where you need them to go emotionally and mentally. So they're ready to buy from you. They trust you faster. Because the other impact, I mentioned that the good impact is trust. The negative impact is that if your colors are saying something quite different than your words, which are saying something, again, quite different than how I'm perceiving your images or the design on your website, which is saying something different again than what I discover your pricing to be, all those little tiny little gaps in continuity and what I call psychological consistency, they take away from trust, right? So there's something in you that's like, I don't know why, but I just not feeling it. Like it just doesn't feel right. It's just not,
And
I
they
don't
don't
know.
know why. But that is what, oh my God, I'm just thinking now, there's so many. We will
It's
definitely be chatting
everyone.
them.
It's everyone. Don't worry.
Wow. So how many graphic designers do you think actually have this knowledge when it comes to understanding all of these? Not many. Yeah.
Less than 0.02%.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
That's,
hardly anyone. Yeah.
yeah. It's wild,
I
isn't it?
think so. What applied psychology really speaks to, and this is again more the geeky stuff, is
Yeah.
that there was a gal in the 80s named Angela Wright. She's quite old now. She's in her 80s now. But she started asking questions about the correlation between color and human behavior because her family owned a hotel. And what she found was there was these two identical rooms in the hotel and everything was the same about them except the colors. And people always asked to stay in one and never wanted to stay in the other. And ultimately, she realized it was the color that was the primary difference. So she started asking questions about how color impacts us. And she put out a theory that basically said, based on research, that I think that if you take the four personality types of like the Jung based types, which is what Myers-Briggs is based on, and these four temperaments, which is kind of that axis of like intensity and like introvert extrovert,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
I think that there's this correlation between people and the colors they prefer, because as I mentioned before, you can also break color into four groups,
Yeah.
yellow based and blue based, and whether or not they have gray or black added or not. So you have your sort of intensity and yellow based, blue based. And so she put this theory to the test, and it has been researched globally for the last 20 years of, is there a correlation between people who appear to be in group A and what colors they prefer if we group the colors in group 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it is extremely statistically true, meaning, when they did the research, there was a very strong correlation from statistical terms of people from this group like these colors, people from this group like these colors. And that's where we start to see the crossover with like what's actually a huge social media sensation right now, this color analysis of like, what's your season, right? Like, are you a spring? Are you an autumn? It's the same in some of the principles in terms of these groups, these four color groups were named by seasons. And what appears to be true is that, light works the same way throughout the day, morning, afternoon, evening, as it does throughout the year. So spring and morning have a lot in common. Noon and summer have a lot in common. Autumn and the late afternoon have a lot in common, right? You can see the light similarities of that cycle. And so those natural patterns play out with light, and they also play out with us in personality types. So there's this, what appears to be true based on what the science says, and certainly based on my personal experience of using this methodology, is that people also show up in the same natural patterns. That if you are, let's call you a winter, I've created different names for these because I find the season things confusing. Yeah. But if you're a winter, what I would call a starshine, then you are likely to have a lot of these personality type quirks and prefer colors like black and white and these like really bright, intense or very light and icy colors that are all blue based and have no black or gray added to them. And those will also be the colors that will look best on you because your physical self and your internal self are mirroring these same sort of patterns. And it sounds insane, but certainly in the work that I've done over the last, 5+ years of testing this methodology, it has been insanely true. And people say to me all the time, like, I've never felt more seen. This is totally me. And the really important piece of this is the personality analysis piece. It's not just aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find your colors just from like draping color over you. It's really easy to get that wrong. Your hair color could be different. The light could be weird. You could have a tan. But when you look from the personality type, 9.5 times out of 10, it's like straight away obvious, like exactly what your colors are. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, so you gave us all that quiz when we were in Necker Island, and it's like because Natalie was fireside, is that right? And I'm fireside as well, which is my colors are all way off. But it made sense when I said, and also, is it okay if I put the quiz in the show notes for people?
Oh, please. Yeah. It'd be great for people to take it and see what their personality.
Everyone listening, you have to take the quiz. And I announced it on the Instagram because it blew my mind. So it was so interesting because would you say you end up attracting similar types to you?
100%.
Yeah.
So this is what's so cool about the color harmony piece that I mentioned is once you understand what your personality type is, you know what group of colors you should wear, but certainly also then if we think about, I like to think about brands as personalities and people basically, right? Because we only respond to people. So that's why we use archetypes and personality types in branding. And so you choose a personality type for your brand. Let's say it's fireside. And so like everything around me right now in this picture, this video is fireside. So you'll see a lot of color harmony around me because I'm a fireside and I build fireside brands for myself. And once you know what that group of colors is, you can use exclusively that group of colors to create color harmony. You can then do what I did with Natalie, which is have photo guidelines that say only use these colors and these textures and these backgrounds in the photos to the exclusion of all else. So we're holding that harmony. And then when you experience like the website, for example, and the images and the colors are in complete harmony, you have that experience of like, oh my God, this feels so good. This feels like that magic that you feel in your body. And that's true even if it's not your personality type. So even if you're not a fireside, you'll probably go to Natalie's new website and be like, oh, this feels nice.
Yeah.
This feels really good. And the trust is built. So you keep looking deeper. If you land on Natalie's website and you're a fireside, you're going to have that feeling of like, oh, this is nice. Oh my God, I feel like I'm home. This is so me. Yeah. So you'll have that extra layer of feeling really personally connected to it because it aligns with your personality type. So naturally, you're going to attract more people in that personality type, which means you already know a lot about them, how to serve them, how to talk to them, whether it's your customer service or your VIP experiences that need to be, a priority. Like it's amazing what we can use based on what we know. And it's not that you'll only attract those people, but it was, you were in that room where I asked what everybody's personality type was, and there were way more firesides than anything else because that's who Natalie has attracted. Now there's more firesides in general in the world than the other personality types. So there's, but I've seen that over and over again. I spoke at Catherine Morgan's conference in January, and all the people who I ended up chatting with as a result of that were Seasides, which is what Catherine is. So she's attracting a load of Seasides, which is my name for summer. So yes, take the quiz, find out your personality type. I should chat about it. DM me and I'll chat with you about it. I love it. It's so cool.
Yay. Okay. So I have a couple questions and then I want to ask you how people can get in touch with you, how they can work with you, all of that. But you're writing a book. So we started chatting about this before I hit record. So tell us about that and that whole journey and what's happening for you currently.
Yes. So this work, I've been on my own personal journey and then my work journey, of course, right? So I've been an entrepreneur for well over 20 years and my career started in photography and design and then marketing in general and consulting. And one of the things I discovered back in sort of 2015 was this process that I call why finding, which is basically getting all the stuff out of your brain, getting it down and being able to build some clear communication out of it. Call it whatever you like. I call it brand pillars and a golden thread, which is like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I do, why I do it, who I do it for, and how I do it. Yeah. And that can be for a life. It can be for a brand, but I like it at brand level, not at product level, right? It's not like I help people make $1 million. It's like I'm here to help women, feel more seen or whatever. And so what's been really interesting is that I sort of did that for myself to move out of the niche that I was in to expand into a larger space. And I started doing it for other people along the way. And it took me several years to realize how, again, magical it was that could just go in and get this out of people and create words to express it, which is like the missing link, right? Many times is we just can't voice it and we can't put it into concise, succinct language, which makes it hard for other people to connect with. And so I've been doing that since 2015, but I've also still been sort of fighting with and sitting with what's my next level? Because I've always been about helping entrepreneurs find freedom and fulfillment, but I felt like there was something bigger than that. And I felt like that wasn't it. That wasn't all of it. Yeah. And actually when I was on Necker Island the first time, which was in 2022, it started to crystallize for me that all the work I've ever done, I started in the pet industry. So I was working with all these pet brands for dogs and cats, and I did pet photography. I did a lot of hospitality stuff for wine and spas and hotels. And, then I was really focused on helping entrepreneurs not, stay out of overwhelm. More breadcrumbs. I started putting all the breadcrumbs together along with the color and my own personal journey, which I'll mention in a second. And I was like, the word is joy. All of this stuff that I'm so passionate about, the stuff I'm so good at helping people find and create and choose is joy. It's joy. It's joy. It's joy and color. And I don't know what it looks like and I don't know what it's called. And over the last 2 years, that has crystallized more. And so the language I use now is that I'm here to help co-create a joy first world.
Oh,
and
wow.
What we were talking about.
I love that. That's so
Thank
beautiful.
You. Yeah. I think, I should give that a minute and let it sit there because it is so cool. I'm always talking so fast. I think obviously my excitement for this is really palpable, but what I found, which we discussed before this call, is that everybody is making so many of their decisions out of fear.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest obstacle we see as coaches and consultants. It's the biggest obstacle we fear for our children, right? It's this constant oppression of fear, and the fear, it's fear of failure. It's fear of success. It's fear of not being loved and fear of rejection. It's fear, and it's created in the world that we live in so strongly that it's so hard to overcome. And my vision, my what if that Natalie would call a moonshot, right? Yeah. My what if is what if we all made decisions from a place of joy instead of a place of fear? And what if we did that equally for ourselves as well as for the joy of others? Because the secret here is that the most pure and true and powerful and lasting form of joy we can access is when we are in service to other people, when we are being kind, when we are helping others. And so really, I think it sounds very kumbaya, but unlocking our own authentic, true, lasting joy really does require us to stop ignoring all the plight of others and really get in there. And so what that looks like for me is helping people put purpose at the heart of their business and the heart of their life, so that you can have all the things you want and really pursue your own joy, but also know at the end of the day that what you're doing is not only doing good, but also causing less harm. Wow. And ultimately, that's how we're going to get there.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Oh, you were so amazing, Nick. This is so cool. So is this the theme of the book then?
Yeah, the book is called Joy First.
Yeah.
And it kind of wraps in my personal journey, which I mentioned is, as many of us do, I've struggled my whole life with self-worth and body image. I'm currently right now in the middle of a 100-pound weight loss. I'm about halfway there. And so it felt like I had this awareness that, oh, that's part of this. I tell all my clients, this is not separate. It's part of the same thread. It's part of the same story. And for me, that journey to help entrepreneurs is also a journey to help women and anyone really who's struggled with that self-worth, because that's a big part of where that fear can take root. Yeah. And it's also a big part of being able to choose joy first. We can't do that unless we have some self-worth, which starts with self-acceptance and self-compassion. And that's not something I ever thought I would be talking about or being an ambassador for, but it is so true. You can't really step into that joy piece until you get some of the basics in place. And the basics really often require a lot of healing. So yeah, joy first it's for people. It's for home, life, work. It's for all the things. But yeah, my hope is that one day we'll all be able to make some more joy-led decisions on a daily basis.
This is so cool, Nick. I cannot wait for this book to get in people's hands because this is like such an important message. Like, you, Nick, and then also Nick Pigeon, like you guys have a really important mission with getting hope back into people. And that's kind of where Nick's space is, one day at a time, getting hope back. And it's for you, really helping people live through joy because I think people live in this means to an end mentality when there is no end and they forget there's no end. So it's like, yeah, joy right now, joy first. Like that is such a crucial message. So I'm so glad that you're really trying to put it out there. It's so important.
Thank you. Presence is a really important part of that, isn't it? It is that. It's kind of like being here right now instead of all that being so far in the future and the past all the time.
Oh yeah. And we're kind of programmed to be anywhere but here.
Yep.
Interesting one. So how can people get in touch with you right now? How can people work with you? What is the best way for people to connect? Tell us.
Yes. So I'm going to give you two because we're in a transition period right now between one and the other. So my website is jnicholesmith.com and my name has an H in it. So it's JNICHOLESMITH.com. And we're in the process right now of building joyfirstworld.com. So we'll be transitioning everything over there. But right now you'll probably, depending on when you listen to this, you'll probably find me and all my socials at J.Nichole Smith. Cool. And you can go take the quiz there and find out your personality type. And then go from there to find your colors and then maybe decide you might want to shift your brand into having a personality type as well. And all the things get easier.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So just to be clear, I'll link your website. So the website will be in the show notes. So if they go to the website, that's where they can find the color quiz. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time, Nick. You are just unbelievably amazing. And I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, all of it. And yeah, you're very generous. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me, Sarah. I've really loved it.
Thank you so much for listening today, beautiful soul. I hope you got so much gold and were activated in such a way that you could step into your highest timeline of abundance and freedom because it is more than possible for you. If that desire has been planted in your soul, it is so deliberate. If you wouldn't mind, please rate, review, subscribe to this podcast so that we can get this message into the hearts and ears of more amazing light beings across the world. I would love to continue this conversation with you, so feel free to get in touch on Instagram at sarah.tynan.quantumcoach. If you're a Facebook person, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Sarah Tynan International. And please don't ever forget, if your desire is there, it's because your destiny is there too. You just have to remember who you are. Bye for now, beautiful.